Verse 44 says, now it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. Then the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. Whew. And when Jesus had cried out with a loud voice, he said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last. Just want to talk for the next few moments on the title, Divine Surrender. Lord, I just ask that you bless me one more time to bring forth your word in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, first, this pandemic started. Technically, we're supposed to be allowed to stay here safely, self-quarantining, and every morning, the cops during this pandemic, they try and wake us up and force us to leave.
They just came in last night and told us that's it, we're done, and I have nowhere to go. I don't know what we're supposed to do. They didn't give us any information on where to go or what to do, and no one can tell us anything.
I think there was this notion that the state has all these beds in hotel rooms for the COVID pandemic, and they were just giving them out to all the homeless. And what we just heard from the attorney is maybe one of our guests might qualify for one of those. So unless you're sick, there isn't a hotel room. But the parish seemed to act like there were hotel rooms for everyone.
The homeless population is already vulnerable, but especially now more than ever because they have nowhere to stay at home during the Illinois mandated order. Now, many people are concerned that the homeless population will continue to grow as unemployment numbers climb, so the city is stepping in to allocate as many resources as they can to get them the help they need.
This video of a 2 train shows the city's subway system looking like a homeless shelter. It was taken early Sunday morning by an MTA employee, showing car after car of people sprawled out sleeping. Train operator Yan Hicks, who says he has to work in these unsanitary conditions, is fuming.
The virus is going back and forth in dirty trains with people homeless and everybody with no masks on. There's a problem here.
Hicks says the trains have been taken over by the homeless. Most aren't wearing masks. Many have no access to hand sanitizer or soap. He's worried the virus could be festering without proper cleaning.
The videos of Times Square, it's empty outside. You look at the videos all over the place, it's empty because everybody's underground. There's a whole city of people underground.
With LAX as quiet as it is, it's much easier to see people who are experiencing homelessness. Some telling us they feel that LAX is one of the safer places to be during the COVID-19 crisis.
Dwayne Lawson says he's called LAX home for nearly a month.
I feel more secure here. I know that they very much care about everyone's safety.
The 35-year-old former Lyft driver says he suffered a series of setbacks, including losing his wallet, his ID, and his job. He joins dozens of others who see LAX as a safe haven during the COVID-19 pandemic.
They've placed so many measures in place over here to combat the spread of germs and virus. You'll see people throughout the day just manually cleaning the escalator.
Announcements warning people how to stay healthy, but those who help homeless people say the severity of COVID-19 is not always taken seriously.
Many of them live with lots of challenges on the street every day, and to them it's just one more thing.
The CEO of the LA Mission says he can see why some might gravitate toward LAX, especially if there are fewer people, less contact with others.
But I think that the question is, are they, again, practicing social distancing? Are they taking the proper hygiene methods?
According to LAX police, over the last 3 months, they counted on average 121 homeless people at LAX. This month, that number went down to 94. An airport police spokesman credits the police crime intervention team, working 24/7 to help people experiencing homelessness or mental illness to get assessed and to guide them to the proper services. So far, Lawson says he has not encountered the intervention intervention team, but he was warned about the airport closure hours. He says he left when he was asked to.
An airport police spokesman says people are warned about the nighttime closure hours, and if they receive numerous warnings, they could face citations. However, police say they want to be able to provide the proper services and care before they reach that point.
A fire has ripped through a slum in Ghana's capital, Accra, leaving hundreds of people homeless amid a partial lockdown. It is not yet clear what started the blaze, with thought through makeshift homes constructed from wood and cardboard in the early hours of Tuesday, April 7 morning. Scrap dealer Hamdul Razak lost his home.
Because of the coronavirus, or how are they calling it, they stop us, we shouldn't do any work. So the money that we made it to save, that money that we are using to be feeding ourselves and our family. And this fire came out, burned everything. All of us have collapsed.
Many of those living in the old Fadama market area are poor migrants from the north working in the informal sector. Mohammed Salifu, the chairman of a youth association that represents them, said authorities had not made any arrangements to accommodate the homeless and that he expected them to share with friends or seek shelter in a church. Local media outlet Ghana Web said 800 wooden structures had been destroyed. The area was in partial lockdown to stop the spread of coronavirus. Ghana, which had reported more than 280 cases, had introduced social distancing measures, curfews in some districts, and travel bans.
Yes, good morning, Aaron. Lightfoot will hold a presser at 1 this afternoon at her office to talk about some of the new citywide measures to help the homeless population. Now, last month, she had talked about partnering with hotels that will provide space for Chicago's homeless population with COVID-19. So basically, a place where they can be in isolation and practice social distancing. In addition to healthcare facilities and hotels, Lightfoot said at least 3 YMCA buildings will be available to support the homeless population when there's no space at city shelters. The city has also set up hand sanitizing stations near tents where the homeless typically sleep. But ultimately, later this afternoon at 1, Mayor Lori Lightfoot will talk about some of these new measures she now has in place to help the homeless. We'll update you on what we learned during that press conference.
Overnight, the Chicago Fire Department helped transport homeless people from area hospitals to various YMCAs and hotels. It's an effort to free up more hospital beds for COVID-19 patients in need of serious care. The city is working closely with the YMCA to house the homeless during the crisis. City leaders say it's important to get them off the streets and out of crowded shelters.
And welcome back to this expanded edition of Channel 2 News at 6. And we begin this half hour with new steps being taken to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among Houston's homeless population.
City officials announcing today new shelter space that's opening up. Our senior reporter Phil Archer live near downtown with those details. Phil?
Yeah, that's because Houston's homeless are among the most vulnerable to the virus. They are twice as likely to be infected, and once infected, more likely to die than most of us. So over the weekend, the city and the county opened that new shelter in an ongoing effort to keep Houston's homeless citizens healthy. Everyday outreach teams visit homeless encampments like this one on the Gulf Freeway to encourage social distancing and good hygiene. They provide sanitizer, masks, and other supplies and check for possible virus cases.
In case you do experience more symptoms, I got a phone number here you can call.
So far, so good.
We haven't screened anybody that has needed to be tested at this point. The folks that we're seeing out here are pretty well informed about social distancing.
Joseph Babcock says he is, even though he panhandles to earn money to eat. And he says he's careful about doing it.
Wash my hands, take a bath, keep clean, keep away from everybody, try to keep sanitized.
Right. It's not easy when you live under a freeway, but he says he feels safer here.
Would you go into a shelter if there was room for you?
No, sir.
Why not?
Too many people.
The city's homeless shelters are a bigger concern because social distancing is difficult in a space where people literally sleep on top of each other. The Star of Hope shelters are all at capacity now, and Magnificat House has self-quarantined all of its 16 smaller shelters after 3 unconfirmed cases were discovered 2 weeks ago. Friday, the city and county opened an overflow facility to help existing shelters maintain social distancing. 40 of its 150 beds are already full.
It seems that we've been able to limit the spread of COVID-19 within the homeless system for the time being.
Orlando commissioners are working to make sure there is a safe space for homeless people. They approved $95,000 to expand shelter room at the Salvation Army. News 6's Jerry Askin spoke to commissioners and Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer.
And that funding was approved today to help homeless residents. You see a tent behind me here outside the Salvation Army. It's all being done to try and keep homeless residents off the streets and give them somewhere to go amid the COVID-19 crisis. This white tent is now in place outside the Salvation Army off Colonial Drive and serving as a shelter to give more homeless residents somewhere to go and to promote keeping a safe distance. This tent is for men only, but next door there have already been overnight shelters for men, women, and kids.
That relates to our most vulnerable citizens, and that is our homeless individuals. So we're partnering with the Salvation Army.
Today, Orlando City Commissioners met online to discuss and approve $95,000 to go towards services here to better assist homeless residents.
I want you to notate that he's also saying death is not the end. Are you hearing me? I know a lot of people are scared of dying, but death is not the end. And it shows that the soul will outlive the body. The soul will live on for eternity. The soul has more value than the body. Thank God you're trying to take care of your body here, but your soul far outweighs the body. And then we see in this comfort, because he's comforted in this prayer, because there's security in the Father's hands. There is security in the Father's hands. We heard it today that he experienced what it's like to be in man's hands. He experienced in man's hand, it's brutal. In man's hands, it's unjust. In man's hands, it's painful, both physically and emotionally. That's in man's hands. But in God's hands, there is security. In God's hands, there is protection. In God's hands, there is hope. In the Father's hands, there is purpose. In the Father's hands, there are promises for you and for me. He's comforted in his final moments here on earth because he trusts in the promises of God. And that same comfort that he gave Jesus and the same comfort that he found on the cross is the same comfort that he leaves for me and that he leaves for you. You see, it's not dying that gives us the comfort. It's not dying that gives us the insurance, but it's dying in him. It's putting my spirit in his hands. That's where I get my hope. That's where I get my joy. That's where I get my assurance, simply because it's in his hands. You've got to give him your soul. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? We've got to give it to him right now. Don't waste another minute. You ought to start confessing, God, I surrender all to you. I give it to you. I put my life in your hands. Some of us need to be repenting that we've tried to take control. But right now you need to make up in your mind that, Father, I give you my life so that when it comes time for me to transition, I can say I commit my spirit to you, and you too will have eternal gladness.